morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Okay, it moves one day closer, talking about the Anambra election. And indeed, we're arranging it all, as we always do. Our guys are moving out there. I wouldn't be surprised if, from tomorrow we begin to give you live feeds from there. Okay, that's just very, very much in view. Also, the president was up in the southeast. He's landed. And my guest this morning, first of all, let me quickly bring that into focus. Jimmy Abia, Mr. Abia, actually is not from Abia State, confusingly. Instead, he's from Imo State, right?
Interestingly, yeah.
But quite frankly, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You're from the southeast. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure, Yuri.
Now, the president has landed. The president goes everywhere. He should go everywhere. But this is the first time that he's visiting
yes, of course.
Since taking office.
Yes. The first time he's visiting the southeast, I'd say it's a welcome development, though coming late in time. But it's better late than never.
Oh dear.
Yes. Oh dear. Yeah, because you look at it, if we try to integrate the country, part of the things that we had after the Civil War, which was declared by General Gowon at that time, was reintegration, reconstruction, and the 3 R's actually. And part of integrating the country would be to show every part of the country a sense of belonging. The president had before now traveled to the other 5 geopolitical zones of the country. Although he hasn't been someone who makes a lot of visits, within the country.
Yeah, but you're not going to suggest that he deliberately left the southeast out, are you?
Well,
you're not going there, are you?
I wouldn't know the reason why it happened. I wouldn't know the reason why it happened. Yeah, I wouldn't know the reason why it happened. But I expected that this was going to be one of the first things.
Okay, it would have been earlier.
Yes, it would have been earlier in time. To also give that part of the country, and of course every other part of the country, a sense of belonging.
Indeed.
Yes. Well, but it's good. It's welcome that it's coming.
Well, from what we can tell, his landing was a success. The hordes came out to welcome him. He's got yet another chieftaincy title. People like him,
actually.
In fact, a couple of them.
Yes.
People like the president must have anything from 200 to 300 chieftaincy titles, but it never hurts. I think I heard that one of those titles, the meaning is leader of the Igbo people.
Leader of the country.
Leader of the country.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Say that.
I think Uni Sioha something. It means leader generally.
There you
something.
go.
Yeah,
it
means
go.
Yes. So and then one other one was Enyoha. That is a friend. A friend. Yes, a friend
okay.
of the Igbo. So I think that's the one that has a relationship, direct relationship.
It has a ring. But both of them, but it does have a ring.
Yes, exactly. So,
and the Igbos, in fact, all of that southeast, they do have their list.
Yes.
They have their list. Mr. President has heard it. In fact, he was saying that Igbo leaders visited him. We talked about these demands, and I'm going to deliver.
Of course,
I'm going to make good.
Of course, he said those things, and what you would notice from his visit was that even the people that welcomed him cut across party lines. So you see that semblance that the Southeast now wants to work closely, of course, has always wanted, but is showing it clearly now to the public and to the people of the Southeast that the Southeast is ready to work with the president. The president is also showing that he is also ready to work with the people of the Southeast. And I expect that going forward, this would go beyond mere promises. It will go beyond mere statements, and so that we start seeing things on ground in terms of infrastructure, in terms of real development, and certain things that the people of that part of the country are expectant of. And when we see these things, you'll find that some of the issues that had already breeded certain agitations within that part of the country, you'll see that people would begin to come. It would actually have be a soothing factor and calm certain frayed nerves within that part of the country.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break now so that, we bring on, your contributor, Dan Ekere. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And joining Mr. Abia now is Dr. Dan Ekera of the University of Lagos. Dan needs very little introduction to viewers of this morning. Thank you for coming as always, Dan.
Thank you, Yuri. It's always a pleasure being here.
Indeed. So the president is in the southeast.
Yes.
2 days working tour. And we've just heard that, a person from the area thinks that, yeah, it's okay, but I would have thought it would have come much, much earlier. And so he consoled himself with, so I suppose better late than never. Yes, but the timing of this visit, what do you think about it?
Well, for me, it's a good thing to do that the Southeast is part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, I do not see why he should be visiting now, that this is the time he's going there for the first time, when in actual fact, the entire territory is under his control. So for me, he has really misfired in that.
A man is busy. He can't be everywhere at once. What will you say to that?
For 2 years plus, what do you call once? 2 whole years plus. What is once about it? He has been to so many places.
So there's no papering it over?
No, there's certainly not. But again, 2019 is around the corner, so it will be out of place that could be one of the reasons why he has chosen to do what he's doing now.
And also maybe to reassure the region that, look, I spoke with your elders.
Yes.
They showed me a list of demands.
Yes.
The budget this year, when you check it out, you see that it deals with all of those things.
Yes.
So if people are thinking about a lack of inclusiveness, maybe
it's not just about budget. It's not just about budget.
No, it's not.
Yes.
But there are demands.
Beautiful.
There are demands.
Yes.
And he was saying that the budget, if you look at it, is largely
accommodated part of those demands. That is what he now. In
other words, this is serious.
Yes, but
this goes beyond talk. Now we got money to put behind it.
No, what we see that happen. You see, because as we speak, a budget is being implemented at the moment. To what extent has it been implemented? What is the impact of the budget on the economy? How are the people feeling the impact of this particular budget? What is the likelihood that the one that is talking about will be different from this one? Then, is it all about budget and infrastructure? What about people having their say? The Kechi cabinet, who are the people from the Southeast? What core positions are they holding? You have a president who is from the North. The vice is from the Southwest. All right? Now, key offices like the Secretary of Government of the Federation, for instance. The man who just left the place, is it better than the likes of the Ogbonaya, Onu, and the rest of it? For you to show true inclusiveness, because we have so many, ethnic groups in Nigeria.
Okay.
However, but these ones they seem to be, the largest among them, and you can't do anything reasonably without, including the Southeast. I'm not from the Southeast. We must get that very clearly. Yes. I'm an Isoko man, but I expected that at least a key office of that kind should be given to the Southeast, at least to show that truly you recognize, because all that has happened so far is just that you cannot do without appointing people from the Southeast as minister. That is the only reason I see that he has appointed them. Yeah, the one that should have shown that he really has their interests at heart would have been that, okay, he is the president. The Speaker of the House is from there. The Senate President from there. You have the Deputy Senate President from the Southeast. But at least, what about the executive? Should have made somebody from the Southeast, at least the Secretary of Government of the Federation. That would give me the assurance that truly he has them at heart.
Okay, good morning, Mr. George. Thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
And good morning to Dan and the other gentleman.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I want to believe that this is a sign of a new beginning. The president visiting the Southeast, and he is being welcomed, distancing titles being thrown at him and things like that. I can see that those in the executive arm, like the governors, appear to be embracing the president. But those in the legislative arm, they are senators. And those of them in the House of Reps, they haven't followed the suit. They haven't followed suit. One of them was the one that got up recently to move a motion for the impeachment of the president because he traveled out of the country and the vice president also traveled out. This is not what one would have expected. If you check the trend of events in the Senate, all the negative moves towards making things difficult for the president have all emanated from the senators from the Southeast. So if it is happening that there is a sort of a new turn of events, let it also go down that line. Let the legislators also follow suit. This idea of insulting somebody every day, expected. If you check the trend of events in the Senate, all the negative moves towards making things difficult for the president have all emanated from the senators from the Southeast. So if it is happening that there is a sort of a new turn of events, let it also go down that line. Let the legislators also follow suit. This idea of insulting somebody every day, and at the same time, you want to be a member of his kitchen cabinet, it can't work. If I was the president, I can't put such a person in my kitchen cabinet. I would be stupid to do so. But let us see. They say action speaks louder than words. We'll see what happens from now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George.
Yes, there's
Jimmy.
something. We must see that what is happening in the National Assembly with the senators and the members of the House of Representatives as democracy at play. See, the governors in the Southeast don't have a duty, a constitutional duty to check the president. Members of the National Assembly, regardless of where they come from, are the ones who have the duty, the constitutional duty to check the president. So when they take certain stance and of course, if they have considered it and this is the stance they take, of course, the entire House will still have to decide on this thing. So people should understand it that there's a difference, between democracy at play and going all out to attack the president. There are two different things. And I also expect people to understand that generally people have a freedom of speech. Of course, you're not going beyond certain prescribed principles, but people generally have the freedom, to express their opinions and their views.
And in fact, to add to that, the other time you saw George Bush, when he was president of the United States of America, somebody threw, one of his, yes, the man was not shot down. It wasn't gunned down. His security, attaches were there. They didn't gun the man down. All right?
Wait a minute.
The South African president.
Wait a minute.
South African president was insulted in the parliament.
You and I remember that
South
incident.
Africa did not collapse.
The security service was all over him and he was removed. That kind of thing is unacceptable.
Yeah, but no, I'm not saying that we should encourage that. But what I'm saying is that to say that some persons from the Southeast insulted the president and therefore the man should not appoint somebody from the Southeast, I think is the most, most dishonorable statement.
Away from that for a moment and staying with you, Dan, there's also this little bit of nonsense about the president being barred from stepping in the Southeast lest he be assassinated.
There can't be any such thing. I mean,
it was treated as the rubbish that it is.
I mean, those are statements that should not be taken seriously. He's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not only is he president, he's equally the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You remember the Ogara saga, when Ogara boys were saying Jonathan will not come to commission this, Jonathan will not do this. You see, but he displayed to them that indeed he's a commander-in-chief. He went there. It will be very myopic for anybody to say that the president cannot come to the Southeast, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. So if such people then attack, there are ways to deal with them. There are ways to deal with them.
It's not even going to happen. When you look at the
No, should anybody have such courage to want to commit suicide that you want to attack the president? There are still ways to deal with them. You're right. You don't necessarily roll out whatever to start shooting everyone. No. So I don't have any issue with anybody making declarations that if the president come to this side, he's going to do this, he's going to that. And I know those are just ways of promoting themselves.
Exactly.
Of course, they were just promoting.
To just get themselves in the news.
Just making themselves relevant.
Yes.
Although
they shouldn't be given any relevance.
And
I love the way the president did it.
Exactly.
He didn't even respond.
Quite frankly, he didn't even figure.
At all.
But one just had to bring it up.
I mean, he's the president of Federal Republic.
But I didn't understand that bit about him not inspecting a guard of honor. On the one hand, he was said to not have inspected a guard of honor, which is traditional with these kind of things. Yes. I think another report I saw said that he took a brief salute. How I wish there was somebody from the military to sort of put it in context for us, what these things mean. For the rest of us, I mean, it's just part of the ceremonies.
Yeah, whether he took a guard of honor or not, for me, let him govern, let him do what is necessary.
That's the most important thing.
We are not too bothered about the guard of honor or not.
That's the most important thing. You know? And I think the military will be in a better position to explain that, explain what actually happened. Yes, you know, yes. There might have been some security report that
it's a working trip. It's a working trip. The president has commented, especially I think as it relates to Ebonyi, that he's impressed with some work that's going on there. Traditionally, they reserve some of these projects for the president to commission, flag off, and that kind of thing. So at least in Ebonyi, at least he was saying that he's quite impressed. 2-day working visit, I think he's going on to, he was in Abakaliki as well, right?
Yeah, but I expected more from Ebonyi. Okay. I expected to see more projects. I expected to see more than 2 flyovers and the statue. I expected more than that. We shouldn't be commissioning statues at this point in our history. It's funny. It's funny. It shows that there isn't much on ground, enough on ground to commission. That's why he would be going to commission a statue. Because if governors were doing what they should do and be living up to expectation, I mean, there's a state that has put up almost 10 statues in the past 2 months, and this is not governance. No, I expect. So well, I don't know this statue thing going on in the.
I hear you, and I take on board your opinion.
In the South,
for me, it's one of our set pieces.
For me, I don't even see any problem with
it's a set piece. It's a Nigerian thing.
Statues to maybe commemorate or
I have no
problem with that. Fine, that is
why do you people? Why do we take status? Why do we take chieftaincy titles?
Of course,
no. There are just some things that are us.
They are two different worlds apart. All right, that you are taking chieftaincy title
because you're going to honor somebody that this one is the Muhammadu Buhari flyover. This one is
no governor or president will come and commission your chieftaincy title.
Exactly,
it's a private affair.
I'm just using it as a principle of those things that we seem to like.
They are part of us. We can't. They are part of us.
These ceremonial things.
That's why I call them set pieces. That the president will visit a state and all he's coming to do is to commission to do what you now want to open it for the public to see. Or what exactly is the implication of this? So there should be projects.
How would you have a if the president, for example, is going to go on a working visit? So what would he do, for example?
I expected that if he's going to commission projects, there should be.
So we'll come back to commissioning projects.
Yeah, there should be first. There should be projects that will impact on the people.
On the people.
Okay. Then second.
But how about those roads? Those roads, they're going to impact on the people.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch the something. I don't know how many roads, but I do know that the last time I was in Abakaliki, entering Abakaliki, it was really a huge challenge. I don't know if that road has.
No, the president has it on his list, as he said. That is, he's been told by leaders, and so he has it on his list. But the more important thing this time around is, look, the presidents have always had it on their lists, but we want some action.
We want some action, yeah.
And I think, as you said,
at the same time too, you see, the idea of just praising governors that they have done so well is very common with politicians. That you come in, you start praising, you have done so well, you are the best. Meanwhile, the people are not feeling that impact, that truly you are good, let alone be the best. So I expect that the president should be able to ginger some of these people, even though you want to, try to do some palliative, you are good, you are this, but I expected this and that, so that let the governors know that their duty is to work for the people, not just to produce, maybe take care of 2 roads and the rest that you say you've done so well. We should equally be looking at it in relation to the amount of money available to them. You don't just say you have done 2 roads, 3 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and the rest. At what cost?
This is important, Dan, because Jimmy, yesterday the gentlemen we had in here, they were talking about that in relation to the Anambra election, and the guy coming on board now, that he has a very high bar, to negotiate, in the sense that the previous governor. And he was a known businessman, thrifty. He left so much. He did this. And whatever it is that the incumbent, is doing or has done, one guy, one Anambrarian said that we're looking at what was done with the resources that they had, and we see what you have had, and we don't think it matches up. So that's going to become an election issue, I imagine.
Of course,
if people ever are rational at the polls, that's another aspect.
That's, in fact, it's a critical issue. It's a challenge with democracy. Yes, but you just find that people just get carried away with drama slogans.
One thing you notice about the Anambra elections is that it has been based on issues. You have seen people raising issues. It is not like the elections we've had in the past in some other places, and even in that same Anambra. The election at this time has been based on more on issues. Who is going to deliver? Who is going to give us this? Who is going to do this? Who is going to deliver on those things that the state, the people of the state are expecting? So I see this as a good one, and I expect that the election would also.
Oh, you mean that point?
Yes.
That point made about the Anambra elections.
Yes. So I expect that eventually the result of the polls would also indicate this.
Well, Dan, you were making the point that, look, elections are funny like that.
Yes, you just find the way elections are done here. Because democracy really need a very conscious, civil society for them to actually vote right. What you find today is that this is our son, this is our own. That is on one hand. Then this one has given us a bag of rice. This one has given us a bag of salt. And all those things play. That is why even at the voting point, even at the point of the ones who have already made money to pick a candidate of a party, they are still being bought over. So if at that level you can purchase all those politicians, senators, and the rest, big names, if a candidate can actually pocket them through money, you can imagine what will happen to the common man on the streets, the one who sees 5,000 naira as, something like 10 million. At the time you give him that amount, before you know it, he has casted a vote for whoever has given the money. Irrespective of what program, irrespective of the pedigree, irrespective of what you can do. They don't look at all of that.
We made the point yesterday that Anambra, we're talking about the Southeast generally now, and the election is coming up on Saturday. Well, the president happens to be in the region. It might be a coincidence.
It's not coincidence. There's no coincidence about it. Let's not deceive ourselves.
It might have been long planned.
It is strategic.
Well, you think it's strategic?
Yes. I think it's strategic. I think it's strategic coming at this time, coming just a few days to the election. But then I will take it in good faith that okay, the president is a party man.
These things happen.
Yes, these things happen.
Of course, he has the right to do that.
Of course, but I expect that it would also have other impact beyond election. I expect that some of those promises made
would continuing
be a
relationship and
engagement. So it would go beyond just saying these things just for the campaign and to win the elections come November 18.
But there's something I equally noticed with respect to this Anambra election. The question of the security details of the governor being, removed. In the explanation given by the IG, according to reports, is that, well, though you are entitled to security, whatever, but at least over the period, we have noticed that chief executives like you actually use these people, to promote their own cause in a way. So I'm wondering whether in 2019, Buhari's security details will be removed, so that he doesn't use it against anybody. We need to do things that will make us, present us in good light to the international community.
All right.
The fact that, yes, water kills people now, but it doesn't stop us from drinking water. The only thing you should do is that the men you are giving to this man, you give them the kind of instruction, because at the end of the day, the Anambra governor will not employ them. They are under you as the IG. Once you give those instructions, and the moment they fall below your requirements, you discipline them. It's not a question of removing the man's security details.
Okay, well, after that observation, let's go to another theme the president had, has actually, and indeed did drop, has dropped since his beginning of his working visit, is the theme of unity. That the national unity, no argument there. Well, also, perhaps side by side with that, you will see another report that will say, just forget about Biafra. But let's look at the unity thing.
I think at this time we should be working towards being united rather than just unity. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Having a united country is a situation.
Did you do linguistics? Okay.
Okay, let me. So
the president's stressing on unity. He wants Nigerians to unite.
Of course. Having unity, being one country, is not just the same thing as being united. Now, being united means that everybody understands why he is part of this union. Everybody wants to be part of this union. Everybody understands the benefit of being part of this union. That's when you have the real unity, which I term being united, where everybody, every part of the country feels that we need to be part of this union, not because we are coerced to be part of this union, but because we understand the terms of engagement. We understand the terms on which we are together as a country.
Okay.
So
tell you
that's what I mean.
Okay.
That's what we expect.
I understand that.
So,
I'm gonna, Dan, I know you're going to come into that, but just to give you time, let me go on a quick break, so I would have to interrupt you. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Jimmy Abia and Dan Ekere in the house. And Dan, you were the president's team
on the issue of unity, yes. Yeah. Really, if you look at the country called Nigeria, I do not think ordinarily anybody would have been too worried about how we came about, being one country if governance has been living up to expectation. The challenges have always been that of, the way and manner we are being governed, and the circumstances, surrounding emergence of, candidates and all the other issues. Because if we have actually operated like a federal state that we claim to be by the name Federal Republic of Nigeria, you would automatically take care of your needs yourself. So the question of, the center being one issue will not even arise, because eventually it is the units that will fund the center. So where the units are funding the center, obviously the units will be able to take care of their needs to a point. It is only when it demands certain, involvement or interventions that the federal government will now come in. But a situation where we run a unitary system in the name of Federal Republic, where everything happens at Abuja and nothing happens at the federatory units, then you begin to have issues of agitation, you begin to have issues of, we don't know how we came about, how do we become one country, and all of that.
I understand this line, but you also have heard it said that without prejudice to it, and indeed the rightness of it, that there still is the question nonetheless of what has been done with that which is had.
Yeah,
it has been nowhere near commensurate in value, according to most critics.
Yeah,
whether you want to go to the Niger Delta.
I doubt if those critics are right. Now, it's a question of asking. Nigeria ran a federal system, the regional, periods. Now, how will you rate the West, the Southwest? Will you say they didn't do anything with the resources they had? Because somebody who had a vision was at the helm of affairs, and he was able to guide them.
That's precisely the point I'm making, Dan. That's precisely the point I was making, that kind of thing.
No, the one you are talking about, we have never had that kind of opportunity again. What you have been doing is that you've been giving them resources as if you are being so benevolent. For what really truly belongs to them, you are not giving them, piecemeal out of it. The Niger Delta, all the wealth you generate from the area, you said 30% derivation. And you still find some persons, so very annoying people telling you that, what have you done with the 30%? What have you done with the remaining 87%? So that is the question we should be asking.
Yes,
which one is more, 13 or 87?
I'm seeing what you're saying.
I think that if the people had their resources, they will not even bother you about how they are running their affairs.
If the people had control over
their resources. If I have control over my resources, will I come to you to ask you, why am I like this? So it's a function of, I will look at my neighbors, then those who are around, my citizens, will begin to ask you, Oga, look at the next state. They had less than you have. And look at what they have done. What are you doing with our... We will be the ones asking ourselves the questions.
Okay, Jimmy, you wanted to
Yes,
come in
I
and weigh
wanted
in
to
on
come
that.
in.
Because
Yes,
the point I'm making is that maybe you want to address the criticism we have heard often from indigents that, look, without prejudice to the argument that is on ground, we would have liked to see even the little that we say is inadequate that we are getting, it being used in a certain way so that we know that it is going to be El Dorado, quote unquote,
of course,
when we actually are in charge of our own resources. Now, from region to region, there has always been criticism that the elders, those in charge of governance in the region, they're not smelling of roses.
Yes. You would agree with me that there's a sense in which these things are interwoven, where people find that the governors go to Abuja and collect money at the end of the month, and then or the accountants general, go to Abuja. There's a sense in which people feel that this is not our thing, that this is not coming from us. But where people work for it, and they know that this is our own resources, they would, they would keep a watch over those people they have elected. I agree that there's also a problem in leadership. There's also a sense in which we have a leadership problem even at different tiers and different levels. But I believe that if you put the structure right, the leadership would correct on its own. There are certain things that you do and it becomes the system runs on auto drive. It works on its own. Of course. It works on its own.
I think this is part of the argument of the conversation of federalism.
That's
true
federalism.
That's
why we're talking about true federalism, where you understand that once this thing comes from you now become a guard over it. You understand that this is your own resources, and so you are keeping guard over it. In my language, what we call civil service is Oluoyibo. Now, Oluoyibo actually means the work of the white man. Now, you see why it will be difficult to take, and I think there are similar terminologies, that are used in other languages in Nigeria for civil service. So I'm just drawing this analogy for you to understand why, if it doesn't come from us, we may not take it serious. We may not take it serious. There's a proverb in my place that says that
everybody's money is nobody's money.
Everybody's money is nobody's money. So we have to ensure that if we want to have better leadership at this level, because people will insist on electing better leaders, if they understand that these resources are coming from us, they will insist at the elections that they elect proper leaders.
In the classroom.
I
was going to say,
yes.
You know what, because what I meant by that is, first of all, there's this the whole matter about the political space in this environment here. Even internal democracy, as you know, has come under fire by party members themselves. So that's what I meant by in the classroom, because it's classical. It's structured out the way it's supposed to go, but we know that people from region to region to region are not really able to benefit from this very, very democracy. First of all, it goes back to who is financing the party itself.
Of course.
You want to claim that because you're a voter, me and you are on the same level. It goes beyond one man, one vote internally. And that is part of the, shall we say, one of the Facebook categories is it's complicated. Are you Mr.? Are you Miss? Are you Mrs.? It's complicated. Yes. So I think this falls under that it's complicated.
Yes, I agree it is complicated if we look at it that way. But the question we should ask ourselves, and which should be the starting point, is, are we good or bad as a people? Or certain things have made it seem like we are bad as a people?
I hear you.
I mean, so if we agree that generally we are good as a people, but something else, there's a missing link, there's a reason why it seems that we are turning out as a bad people, then we must settle that issue that makes us turn. For instance, if we ensure that the resources, like I mentioned in the past, that the resources that we have a direct link. There's something I tell my staff. I do this in my office. I remind them that, look, it is the money that we make here that is used in paying your salaries. And I saw something after a few months of reminding them of that. I saw the way they started working, you know, as if it was their own job, it was their own creation. The business, the firm belonged to them because they understood the link between what they were being paid and the output which they give to the job. So I expect that we should be able to set the structure, and that the structure would almost automatically, maybe not automatically, but with other things put in place, as they say in economics, all things being equal, would also correct the other anomalies within the system.
And those anomalies, that generic and general term anomalies, if we are patient enough, it's going to come down to corruption. Part of the problem.
Yes, corruption.
Because these anomalies, because that's what I said when I burst out of in the classroom, because people know what to do to circumvent it, to take power. And meanwhile, these are the people that are really, you can imagine, paradoxically enough, they are the champions of democracy. But still, there are reasons under its complicated category.
Yes.
Where,
when you look at it, the totality of the workings of democracy, there is no way you will not find challenges. As a matter of fact, it is one of those, bourgeois pronunciamentos that you begin to hear that democracy, even the worst democracy is better than the best. Those are just ways of trying to cajole, the ignorant people.
Sometimes it is used to manipulate people.
That is it, just to use people. Otherwise, you cannot tell me that if I have a monarchical system that is functioning and things are being done, just like you have it in Dubai. Dubai doesn't run a democracy.
Arabia.
All right? But the system is working well. You can't tell me that the Nigerian system that we are running, the democracy here, is better than what they have there. Because they are delivering.
But they are them, and we are we.
Yes, but even for us too, you cannot tell me that what is good is worse than what is bad. Because that is what it means to say that the worst democracy is better than the best any other system that you can look at. No, the truth is that the way democracy is run, particularly with party systems, it is usually very difficult for the best hands to emerge.
Well, there's no democracy without parties.
You see, you can run the democracy without parties. It's possible. Now, if you look at the history of democracy, what were the parties in ancient Greece?
You
can run the democracy without
the
parties.
academic,
but again, when you
the
look
academic
at
has come out,
by looking at it from
in contemporary
from the reality of what we have to, and it was that reality that made those who invented representative democracy to now describe it as democracy. However, in running a representative system, the expectation was that those who will represent you will carry your views, not their own views being imposed on you. But part of the challenge is that there is no way they are going to just take your views there as if they are messengers. We call them servants, but as a matter of fact, they are not servants. It's just theoretically that they are described as servants. Will a servant be ordering you here and there? Will a servant be telling you that this is what you must do? Now, if Buhari was to be a servant of the Federal Republic, is it not a servant to the Southeast? Now the Southeast is where, look, we don't want you again, we want to have our own. Will the servant not tell him, you can't do that? So that tells you that it is just a theoretical issue. However, you can still have something that approximates close to good governance. Because the bottom line...
You see, I have a lecturer in front of me. I have an academic in front of me. And when you say it, all of these things are theoretical, well, you see, I'm not too sure. Because people swear to serve their fatherland, to serve their country.
They didn't swear. You told them to swear. You were the one, you wrote an oath for them.
Just so that we know. So that we know.
They only repeated what you have written.
Yeah, because in court, when you raise your hand and you repeat those things, then everybody can now take you that fine.
Even that's
the man swore.
So
if you should deviate,
that one
itself.
That is the system they have introduced to us. All those ones. We don't swear like that. When a typical situation where you want to swear, you will be the one to declare your words yourself. That, well, if I do this, let this happen. Okay?
And it used to happen that time.
Yes, it used to happen that time. Because the organ, the institution before which you are swearing was potent enough to do that. All right? Now you just take swearing as a formality. It's just a formality. And again, part of the challenge with this swearing thing is that, you see, all the swearing and all the whatever, the challenge with judiciary, again, if we go into that, is that it is not driven by knowledge. It is not driven by knowledge. It is driven by authority. You see, you find a situation whereby a professor will go to the court, for instance, professor of law. Now, maybe the judge is somebody he trained a few years ago who is simply maybe a first-degree holder, all right? the professor will still be asking, try to make all manner of argument, and the judge will tell him, no, all of that you have said is all rubbish. This is what the law is, and unfortunately, the man will say, as your lordship pleases. So law is by lordship. It's not by knowledge per se. It's only the judge who has that knowledge of what the right situation is. All the things that the lawyer does in court will be the speculation.
Fascinating.
But again,
fascinating.
But when you now go to a typical African situation,
I understand what is fascinating.
Truth was very critical to justice. Truth. That is why when you go before a shrine and you swear, all right, it is not a function of you just did some abracadabra. Because justice was both physical and spiritual, the spiritual angle was to detect the truth. If you be telling a lie before, when you go before the shrine has a way of, particularly if it's a potent one, not just that you just went and put a cloth somewhere. A potent shrine would determine who actually is guilty.
Indeed.
So truth was critical to that.
So Jimmy, now we need democracy. That's what we're practicing, and this particular administration, when it was going to come on board, it said that one of the reasons it needs to come on board is to come and fix stuff. Yes. We can't continue like this. This country will, tether over. It's at the precipice. It can't be business as usual anymore. All of those ones, in short, anti-corruption war. We're going to come in and we're going to have to fight these things, because everything that Dan has said, we can all relate to it. But democracy and anti-corruption, or a corruption-free society, would be getting similar effects to that, similar effects to what the shrines used to get. Because people would come on there, they know themselves, and they would say that you just knew the power of the authority you were swearing to. Yeah. Even though it is the highest authority that people are using to swear nowadays, the Holy Bible, the Holy Quran, nevertheless, they take liberties that they never would have taken maybe 100 years ago. So what the Buhari administration, the whole anti-corruption war is all about, I think, is to get to that level of effectiveness where people come on and want to serve. And people want to do so truthfully, and will do so truthfully. Now, the extent to which that has happened is the subject of argument.
Yes, yes. I think a lot is still needs to be done if the government really wants to fight corruption.
Well, government wants to, but do you think we are buying into it?
No, because it's not about us.
You say it's not about us.
No. It's not about us buying into it. If the government is doing what it should do,
yes,
naturally, the citizens do not have any option but to accept it as being what. But you see a sense that things have not been done the way they should do. See,
I wonder what you mean when you say if things that should be done had been done. Are you talking about a government, for instance, with limitless resources? Because what a government with limitless resources can do.
Yes.
For instance, Qatar, for instance, Dubai, for instance, Saudi Arabia, for example. What a government in those circumstances can do will differ.
How did they create those resources? Because you must tie in the battle against corruption to so many things. Battle against corruption goes beyond arresting people, making announcements in the media. It goes beyond that. It is an intertwined thing that you must connect with economy. You must connect it with a lot. You must build structures. You must create structures. You must create structures and ensure that these structures work, regardless of who is there, regardless of the connection of this person to me. You ensure that this is not a situation where it takes you several months. Then after the several months, you then announce that somebody has been released.
How fair are you being? I asked the question I asked the question because don't forget that it's a political dispensation, a democratic dispensation. It was much different when we had the military around our neck, the arbitrers. Yes. They could, they came up with automatic effect, and I think Eleni added automatic alacrity. they could do things with automatic effect. You can't do that in a democratic
that's why they
regime.
couldn't do things. And that's exactly why the system, because what we're trying to do now is like what was done during the military days. And I'm saying that would not. No. It's similar. It's similar.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal public funds.
It's similar. It's similar. The only difference now is that at the end of the day, it is subjected to the judicial process. But of course, one thing you must agree with me is that if the major work has not been done, you subject it, you take it to the court, it will definitely crumble. It will crumble because you have not done.
This is democracy.
You have not done what you should do.
Yes, it doesn't matter what the substance of the matter is. Yes. That's why we have these rules and laws and guides. You have to submit yourself to the rule of law. Yes. You have to have a court pronounce, and even when a thing is stupid, as you've just said, yes, when a thing everybody knows that this is a bad situation, if unfortunately it is not properly presented, yes, it'll be thrown out.
Of course,
and we need to have.
That's part of the point he's making. That's the point I'm making. If you got the point, that's the point I'm making. Let me make some light on it. Yes. What he's trying to say is that you've arrested somebody that is a thief. Meanwhile, you've not been able to put things together to actually show
to
clearly,
process
yes,
that arrest
to convince
to its conclusion.
The court or whoever that this person is actually a thief. Then you are just making noise. You are so that part of the institution has to be strengthened. You need to put those things in place so that when you do your investigation, they should be watertight.
Okay,
so when you present your cases,
don't forget that
there should be cases that will clearly, you know.
It might seem that we've come far away from where we started, but
yes,
not really, because we're talking about unity.
That's part of the issues.
They are.
Because the
we're
major
issue the president in the Southeast,
yes,
him preaching unity.
Yes.
Forget Biafra. Just forget about that. Can we just concentrate on being united and unity?
Yes.
That's what he's saying. See, and then we are looking at some of the problems that militate against this situation, right?
Unity, of course, is not something you can dictate.
Well,
it's not something you can dictate.
But also, sir,
yes,
when those who are elected to serve or appointed to serve are the guys with the ranches, are the guys with the estates, are the guys with the airplane, are the guys with the limos, and they're put in power by the base of the pyramid, the smallest of the smallest. They put the 1% at the pinpoint of the pyramid. They put them in power. When nothing changes and they keep on getting richer, and the base of the pyramid keeps on getting poorer and poorer, what grammar are you going to talk to those people?
Yeah, it's going to be a major challenge. You see, but one thing I want them to realize is that, you see, you could be a mighty tree in a forest, all right? And surrounding you might just be little grass and the rest. You see, but the day that grass and the small trees get angry and decide to cooperate and embrace fire, the mighty tree will come down.
Yeah.
All right? So we must understand that.
But the people have not come to that point yet.
When we get there, the way we are going, we'll get there. You see, gradually you can see that the consciousness is growing. Okay. And again, like he rightly mentioned, this issue of, you know, fighting corruption and doing all of that really is not a problem for us. It's a problem of the head, because there's no way the leg and the hands and the head will disagree with the head when they say this is where we are going. They will move. All right? So, but you need to show that leadership. The whole challenge of corruption is a question of bad leadership. All right? All the problems, because corruption is just symptomatic of bad leadership.
I think everybody will agree with that. But that whole matter about poor leadership, there are very many components to it, and people that certainly are better than me are holding all sorts of, you know, symposia on how to fix that. But, you know, for all of that, today, everybody says President Buhari, he came into office on that whole platform of, no compromise on corruption and all of that. No doubt politically he's had to sort of, negotiate a bit. He wanted lean government. Well, people have come on air and have said to us, it needs to be fat in certain areas. Unnecessarily fat. This is not a gym. This is a political system. Some people worked for you. So
and he has seen that clearly too, and he's embracing it as well. He has embraced it as well.
So that's part of why,
because if Buhari had not embraced that political aspect,
he's in the Southeast. 5% or no 5%?
Yes, he doesn't have a choice. And interestingly, he perhaps will want to get the entire 100% next time. So that could be the...
Okay, then. Really. We just have about half a minute to go. Jimmy, did you want to say something? Upon the president's visit, it's a successful outing so far by the reporting.
I think
and it can only get better.
Yes, I think it's welcome, despite it coming late, but it's better late than never. And I expect him to build upon this in terms of making those promises, come true.
Sure.
That's what I expect from his.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. Mr. Abia sounds just like the state. The man is not from Abia. He's from Imo.
Maybe he has a historical
Mr. Abia is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming on, Jimmy.
My pleasure.
And Dr. Dan Ekere, our lecturer in philosophy at the department, at the University of Lagos. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
So that's our program. Apart from the repeats, catch us tomorrow for a fresh edition from 10:30 in the morning. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.